All right, guys, this is Lionel and Lamar. We're here to talk about Game of Thrones Season 2, Episode 3, What is Dead May Never Die. So this was a really, interesting episode. A lot of stuff happened. There was a lot of, political intrigue going on. And we'll get into all of that. I want to start off, though, in the far north, above the wall, beyond the wall, with John. So we open the episode up, and John is being brought back to the encampment by Craster, who has caught him doing something questionable in the woods. And I kind of want to know if you what you gathered from that scene and what was going on up there.
Well, Craster is upset that John had followed him into the woods. And in the previous episode, it ends. We see Craster taking this baby out into the woods, and this entity, this thing, picks up the baby and walks off. And John sees that, and he puts it together that Craster is killing all of these babies, or at least offering them to whatever is out beyond the wall.
Yeah.
So that is the confrontation that they're having in this tent. And Mormont,
Yes.
he is also there, and Craster is basically telling him that what John just did was pretty egregious. I need all of you and your men to leave right now, and you also need to make this up to me because this is a violation of the rules that I have set here. So Mormont and John, they leave the tent, and they have a discussion about what happened. And John is basically upset because he witnessed, and he surmised this, that Craster has been giving his sons to these things, and he's murdering them. He needs to know why Craster is able to do this. And he looks at Mormont with this, look of disgust as he realizes that Mormont knows this already.
Yeah.
Mormont knows that Craster is offering his sons, newly born sons, to the White Walkers.
Yeah.
So, and Mormont kind of justifies it by saying, we need Craster up here doing this, basically, because it keeps them from moving on beyond the wall south.
Yeah.
So Craster and his offerings are keeping these White Walkers at bay.
Okay, so that was your read of the situation. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's super interesting because I saw that too and wondered. I was like, how long has he been doing that? First of all, because he has some pretty old daughters,
right,
and no sons that age or at all. So that's interesting. And if so, what? They're saying yes, these offerings are keeping them at bay, but how long is that gonna last?
Right.
So yeah, that's interesting, and I had forgotten that Mormont said that, and so it's interesting breaking down his rationale and wondering how it holds up in the long run.
Right.
So yeah, was that that was kind of, I think honestly that was the most interesting thing we've seen happen beyond the wall.
Oh yeah,
yet.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am definitely, and this may sound odd, but I get it.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily upset that Craster is doing this. I think I'd be upset that he's obviously having sex with his daughters.
Yeah.
And producing more daughters and having sex with them. But the idea that this sacrifice does need to be made to keep... And Mormont also says, we've got a different war to fight.
Mm-hmm.
You trying to figure out what Craster is doing isn't important as what is actually going on. The murder of these rangers and these people beyond the wall. What's happening with them. Let Craster fight that battle for us, and when we will go do something else. So that I understand and I get it, and I'm not upset with the show or the story or the books or wherever that idea came from. That that exists. I'm on board with it.
No, it's interesting, and I think seeing what he's doing with the boys puts in it makes what he's doing with his daughters less gross. I mean, it doesn't make it less gross, but like it makes it less random, I think. Because before it's just like, oh yeah, he's just sleeping with all of his daughters and like having this like weird incest family for no reason. But then you see like he's sacrificing his boys to the White Walkers, and it's like, okay, maybe there's some actual reasoning he has to be having sex with his daughters for the babies to turn out a certain way or whatever. So I mean, like it added like a new layer of like messed upness to it that makes you think, you know what, it's not gonna touch that.
So here's now what I am considering. You know, the sons is the price he has to pay.
Yeah.
Maybe there aren't any other women around.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's probably
so
what it is.
He has to produce more sons, and the only way he can do that is to produce more daughters.
No, that makes sense.
You're right. That's so creepy. On so many more levels, but it makes sense.
Yeah, because before you were just thinking like, oh, he's just some weird guy who wants to have sex with his daughters. But then like you hear what you explain what you just said, and it's like, oh, okay, he's like got himself into this involved in this deal, and this is the only way for him to keep doing it. And Mormont, just similarly, is like, yes, we've gotten ourselves involved with this Craster person, and letting him do this is the only way that we can keep up what we're doing. So I mean, like, it's all very interesting and convoluted, and like the show did a really good job of like putting us in John's shoes, because like as the viewer, the show is basically saying like, yeah, this weird stuff is happening, and just be on board with it because it's part of the story. Like
it was interesting. I mean, a lot of that could have gone a lot of other ways. Like his motivations, why he was doing that, the kind of person
it actually,
that he is.
like I was just saying, it could have been way creepier and weirder than that, honestly. So yeah, I don't know. But that leads into, now that we're talking about Craster's daughters, it leads into Sam talking to Gilly, and that's her name. That's the wildling girl's name. So that leads into that conversation where he gives her this little trinket that his mother had given him, and he basically promises that he's going to come back for her. Now, the last time we talked about this situation, you were like really not into it, and so I want to see, like, now that you have seen that Sam has not given up on this, what do you think about that?
As I was watching it, I was still a little perturbed by Sam's naivete and his just insistence on wooing, first of all, this stranger. Secondly, this stranger who poses immediate danger to their mission, their lives.
Yeah.
And he may not necessarily know that firsthand, but I, as a viewer, do. So that may be muddling the water.
I think he knows.
But I then remember what Sam has said a couple of times. He hasn't seen a woman in however long. Yeah. He's been at this wall for a week. I know it's been longer than a week, but a very short amount of time. He has no idea what he's gotten himself into. He has no idea what it really literally means to be isolated at the wall and to have pledged this oath. I don't think he understands what that means. So he still has this glimmer of hope inside him that he can live a normal life.
Gotcha.
And I don't think that he gets it. And the reason that he has offered basically himself to Gilly is, you know, he still wants to be loved and to love. He still wants a family. He still wants to be a part of what has cast him out, basically. And you can see it in his face, and that may be a casting decision, but he looks very young. He looks very immature. And he looks very, very much like he is just a puppy dog. And he's in love right now. So he basically gives Gilly an engagement ring. It's symbolically. Because, you know, it was his mother's, and that was the gift that she gave him before he left. So that's literally the only thing of her that he has, and now he wants to share that with this other woman. So he's very romantic in that sense, and I get it. At first, I was just completely turned off by his insistence, but after watching it and running through the character that they've given us, it makes sense, and I'm not necessarily against it. It's still a little weird, that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I think it's just like, with me, I think that like what you were saying makes sense, and he's kind of trying to, like, he's trying to like hold on to the identity of his like from his
Right.
former life. Like you were just saying, he hasn't like taken the Wall's oath that seriously, and like because for example, giving her that trinket or whatever is like saying like, hey, I'm trying to like bring you into a part of my family or whatever, but he's not part of that family anymore, which he's not understanding. And so that is really interesting, and also like it's a symbol from his mother especially, and his father is the one who casts him out, so his mother arguably still loves him or whatever. And so it's like it's not only just the last piece of his mother, but it's the last piece of the only person who really ever cared about him, or at least that's the impression that we're getting right now. So yeah, and so that is really interesting. And I did really like honestly seeing Sam do that, just because like when we see John just wants to like be involved in everything, and like kind of wants to control everything, and like make everything like it was at Winterfell. And it's nice to see Sam being like, screw all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I just like this girl, and that's it. John, like, stop trying to make him stop having sex with his daughters. Like, that is not our business. But I am gonna take one of his daughters, though, because that is my business now.
Oh, Sam.
Okay, so now we're gonna go and we're gonna talk about Winterfell just because it was pretty brief. We see Bran, and he is Maester Luwin sends Hodor. I don't know if you know who that is yet.
No.
That's a big guy who doesn't speak.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Maester Luwin sends him in there to fetch Bran. And Bran then tells Maester Luwin once they're together that he is having these dreams where he like thinks he's a wolf. And it's so funny because as we were talking about during the episode, Maester Luwin is like, "You're crazy, Bran.
Yep.
You're crazy. People don't do that anymore. Why are you even saying stuff like that? Oh, that totally can happen, just not now."
Yeah.
So it was just really funny to see him being so dismissive of it, but like confirming the fact that it's possible at the same time.
Right. So that scene begins with a knee-level view of this pathway that what's his name, Hodor is traversing to get to Bran's room.
Yeah.
And you can hear panting. So it's as if a wolf is I thought a wolf, and it was Bran's wolf.
Yeah.
We saw a point of view of Bran's wolf leading up to Bran's room. And as we enter Bran's room, you see that Bran is kind of squirming in his bed as if he's having a nightmare. And as the wolf gets closer to the bed, Bran wakes up, and he's sweating and he's breathing heavily. And then we get into Bran explaining that he's having these dreams that he is a wolf. And I thought to myself, is a piece of Bran literally in his wolf? Because as his wolf approaches, it transfers back into his own body and he wakes up.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And I think they've been doing that. They've been sprinkling that throughout every time we've seen Bran and his wolf.
Yeah.
And then he goes into great detail about how he can taste the blood.
Yeah.
In his
so
mouth.
yeah, like you were saying with his dream, like not only does he wake up from this dream, but he wakes up with these vivid memories of being the wolf. It's not necessarily just like I was walking around. It's like I killed something and ate it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Maester Luwin goes into that he had this charm that represented his lifelong studies.
Yeah.
And his particular charm.
Yeah.
Noted that he studied magics.
The higher mysteries is what he said. Yeah.
So he goes on to say, as you were saying, Bran, this stuff, I've studied it. I've known other people who have delved into magic. But at the end of the day, they were all just stories. Now, the dragons, they're all gone. The giants, they're all dead. And he says the third thing, and I don't remember.
Children of the forest.
Children of the forest, they're all gone as well. So he's again describing all these fantastical and mythical things that Bran is experiencing,
Yeah.
while also telling Bran that doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't exist anymore, and you should just let this go. I'm not sure what he's getting at. Maybe it's innocent. Maybe Master Lewin is really trying to console him and trying to ease him and trying to say, hey, you're having post-traumatic stress, basically. It's okay. Or is he trying to suppress what he knows is inside Bran? I don't know.
Interesting. Okay, that's an interesting way to look at it. Because, yeah, it's interesting that he says that he describes all of these things that are no longer. And I think it's worth noting that dragons are one of those things. Because that would suggest, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but that would suggest maybe his intentions, because we do know that everyone knows dragons are gone. And I think there are even people who have talked about dragons in the same way of like, dragons don't exist, even though like it wasn't that they haven't really gone too far into it, but it wasn't that long in the show's history that there were dragons. So I mean, people really are forgetting that these things exist and not really believing them anymore. It's really a matter of who is it that doesn't believe it, you know? And for someone who studied the higher mysteries, you would think, well, maybe you should know, because like you've studied this stuff, you have a chain that proves that. So yeah, it is right, you're correct to question Maester Lewin's intentions, I would say. Because it's funny that you say that, because like I think when I first saw that scene, I just took him at his word, and I was just like, oh yeah, he's just trying to I saw it more as like him talking to a boy who's been watching too much Disney, you know?
I think at this point for me, I'm not necessarily trusting anything that 90% of the people say. There's so much deception, and not necessarily that Master Lewin has lied to me or the show. But it just seems that there's an ulterior motive behind most of what is said.
That's true. That is very true. And it's interesting because like you notice. Oh, okay. Never mind. That hasn't been said. But like you notice that there are places where there is more deception than there are others, and I don't know if you've noticed that or not. Okay, because yeah, like I think it's interesting because Winterfell seems to be the place where there's like the least of it, but it all came to a head the second they invited people over. Like they had people over for dinner. And then all of a sudden there was drama. So basically, like the point was like, don't have friends. Like
they were doing just fine.
And then Ned had to bring his old buddy home. But yeah, so that is really interesting. But yeah, I really did like the fact though that like I like the fact that you noticed that transition from the wolf to Bran and what that could mean. And also the fact that like he listed a thing that didn't exist until a couple of episodes ago. So that's to explain away what Bran is feeling, basically. I think that is important. But yeah, okay, so and then I don't think anything else happened with Bran. That was pretty much the extent of that conversation, right? Okay, so now I want to go down to the Reach. This is the first time we've been to the Reach. And that is the South, basically. Because there's the South that, like, everything that isn't the North. But there's also the West and the East. So, like, King's Landing and the Vale where Lysa lives, that's all in the East. The east of Westeros. Because there's also the east where Daenerys is. But then there's also the west, which is where the Lannisters are from. They're kind of like hanging out in King's Landing because they're pretending to be Baratheons, but they're from the Westerlands. And then the south is where the Tyrells rule, and that's Loras' family. So they are hosting Renly right now because he is claiming to be king. Yeah.
I thought that he was king of that land.
Oh no, he's in their land right now. So yeah, I want to talk about that scene. It opens up with Loras Tyrell having a duel with a very large knight. And then we find out that her name is Brienne. So let's just talk about that duel really quickly, and then we'll go from there. Because a lot happened down there.
It didn't occur to me until literally just now that that was Laura.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. Just didn't occur to me at all.
I think that'll make the rest of those events make more sense as we talk about it.
I think even now it still makes sense because I remember him from these other episodes and how his interaction with Renly. But yeah, it just didn't click to me. So Loras gets beaten by this knight, and Renly invites this knight to take off their helmet and ask a favor of him. And whatever, if it's in his power, he'll grant it. So the knight takes off their helmet, and we discover it's a woman. And Loras is taken aback, and not so much so, but so is Renly and his queen, who's sitting next to him. So Brienne asks to be a part of his Knight's Guard, or his King's Guard. And Renly accepts. She's a battle-tested warrior, as she just showed off in this duel. And Loras is still on the ground after getting beaten. He got body slammed, and I thought that was hilarious. So he's just lying on the ground, and he looks like, really, bro? Why would you do that to me in front of all these people?
Yeah.
This is my house. So, his queen, what's her name?
Marjorie.
Marjorie?
Actually, I really don't know. I think they did say her name. Okay. Yeah, but her name is Marjorie.
Her name is Marjorie.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that interaction was also as interesting.
Wait, which one?
Between Renly and Marjorie.
Okay, well, let's not get there just yet. Okay. But yeah. You thought it was as interesting as what?
Loras being upset.
Oh, okay.
What do you mean let's not get there yet?
Oh, well, I wanted to talk about Catelyn arriving there first.
So she gets there, and actually it appears that everyone already knows why she's there.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't really say anything except
I mean, like, if you think about it, it makes sense why they would know.
Right, so I guess what was the point of the scene then?
I think it was just to follow up because Rob sent her down there in the last episode.
I know.
But and then we also needed to see that, like, I think we needed to see that she was at that camp now, and that's just where she's going to be in the next couple episodes, I guess.
Okay.
Well, we needed to see her get there.
But she didn't have to talk to Renly for her to not say anything. And
I mean, she said enough, I think.
Everyone else talked for her as far as why she was there.
Yeah.
Renly said to her, I'm sorry for your loss, and I'll make sure that the Lannisters pay for this, and I'll bring you Joffrey's head. Great gesture. But she was worried that she wasn't going to be able to talk Renly into coming with him, or coming with her and his men.
Yeah.
But she didn't get a chance to even do that.
Yeah.
She was already there, and they already knew why. So, I'm not sure if that conversation is going to be had still.
I see. Okay, gotcha.
So, it was just odd that they would have that scene for that one purpose and it not be.
Yeah, I think we're to assume that they're going to be talking.
Fair enough.
That she's there, and she hasn't completed her mission yet. But yeah, so yeah, she does say something really interesting to Loras, because Loras is like, why isn't Rob here? Mm-hmm. Like, why he sent his mom here, She's like, well, my son's fighting a war, not playing at one, which I thought was interesting because I think Commander Mormont says that to Jon.
Yes.
He's like, are you just a bastard boy who wants to play at war?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. That it seems like maybe that's something, not necessarily that phrase in particular, but that's kind of like attitude and that perspective might be a northern thing.
She also says that to Renly, because
I don't think she says it to Renly. I think she only said it to
words.
Oh.
She says this is all a game to you.
Oh yeah, she does say that. Yeah.
So it does seem as though even Renly isn't taking this as seriously
Yeah.
as Catelyn would like him to.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond just taking it seriously, because I think she says, I feel bad for your men, basically. And he says, why? And she says, because they're the nights of summer and winter is coming. So I think that also just, like, reiterates the fact that, like, the Northerners understand that it's almost winter and the Southerners don't. And I think that that's also, like, a key thing that was mentioned in this episode, that they haven't discussed enough about what winter means or what that is, but like it has been brought up over and over again that winter is coming. And I think that it was important for her to say that line of like, your men don't understand like what's about to change, basically. And I think that also pointed out like what we were just talking about, how the Starks were fine until they invited the Lannisters up. Like the games kind of are what exists in the South, and the Northerners don't really do that.
Gotcha.
And so I think that was kind of like what Catelyn was saying. Like it was what she was saying was to Renly, but it was also to like all of those people, like all of your family, all of these, you're all playing games, and like Northerners don't do that. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But anyways, back to the games that they're playing. So we meet a new player in the game, and that is Marjorie Tyrell.
Yeah.
Renly's queen and Loras's brother. Now, I just want to talk about how all of that shook out, because when you first saw Renly and Loras banging, you kind of chuckled because you were like, oh, that's his wife's brother. But did you register already that she knew?
No.
Oh, okay. Or like, did you even like suspect that she would have?
No.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, I wondered if that decreased how funny it was, or if it made it funnier that she was also in on it and didn't care.
It was funny when I thought she didn't know. It changed the dynamic of her character when I realized she did.
Gotcha.
Because, as you said, she didn't care.
Yeah.
What she cared about was the alliance between her two families.
Yeah. And that like showed you who she actually was, and that she wasn't just like Sansa, for example, who's like, I want to get married. She was like, I want to get married because I have stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like,
so yeah, it's more important to her right now anyway that she and Renly produce an heir.
Yeah.
And however that needed to happen, she was on board.
I think of all of the character introductions, Marjorie Tyrell gets the best one. Like, so far. And I this is why I like it so much. Just want to explain it to you. We're introduced to this new character that we've never seen. She's the queen in the South for all intents and purposes. And it's just like, oh, okay, another queen, another king. We're seeing a lot of that right now. Why is this happening? But then, like you saw, it's like, oh, her husband's stepping out on her. That's awkward. Like, drama, games, Game of Thrones. But then she walks in and it's like, oh, wait, she's the one playing the game. Like, they're just having sex because they're in love, but she's actually the one, like, maneuvering over here, which I think is interesting. And it's just like, they very quickly unveiled this character, I feel like, as opposed to, like, building up to a reveal like that. It's something that I just thought was interesting. Like, she just came into the story like guns blazing. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm here.
Similar to Yara.
Yeah, actually, yes, exactly. And that's actually a pretty good segue, because I don't think we had much else to talk about with the Tyrells.
No.
Except for they are my favorite family. So, and are you now seeing, like, because I told you how when Stannis was introduced, how you were going to soon be able to, like, start picking camps?
Yeah.
Do you understand how you can kind of do that now?
Yeah.
Because there's so many different things going on. The Lannisters are just the worst depictions of humans I've seen on television, but they're at least interesting, though. I don't find the Ironborn to be interesting at all.
Gotcha.
And especially not the dad. Yara is interesting. Theon is not interesting to me. Yara is actually pretty interesting, especially what she says when Theon is asking her, like, why didn't you tell me that it was you? She's like, 'cause I wanted to see who you were first. So that shows a lot about her character, too. And I kind of want to compare her to Marjorie, honestly. Like, I want to, like, talk about these two. Like, Which one of them do you find more interesting? I mean, you know a little bit more about Yara, even though it's only been one extra episode. But like, as far as like how they operate, they're very clearly like these tacticians. Like they both like know that they're like chess pieces that need to be maneuvered.
Right.
And I just kind of want to talk about like each of these kind of like interesting female characters that we've been introduced to recently.
As you said, because we've had an extra episode with Yara,
Yeah.
to me right now she is more interesting because I know more about her. I
Yeah.
know the things that she's done and her accomplishments.
Yeah.
And I know how at least one person sees those accomplishments.
Oh, okay, because you've seen an outside view of her from
Right.
her dad.
Right.
Okay.
So, and that isn't to take anything away from Marjorie.
Yeah, you just haven't heard it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So it's an interesting setup to Marjorie's character, and I'm interested to where that's going.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, it's Yara. Right.
Okay. So did Marjorie strike more interest in you than Renly and Loras did immediately? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Because I will say that like the Tyrell's storyline, like it like what Loras and Marjorie and Renly are doing, like now that Marjorie is a piece of that, it gets a lot more interesting.
Gotcha.
Because before you were saying that you just kind of saw Renly and Loras as schemers. Well, Marjorie adds some like much needed context to all of that, I feel like. But yeah, but no, Yara is really interesting because she is this character who just like is just doing things. Like she's getting stuff done. And it's really interesting. And like the way that she introduced herself to Theon, like, and the fact that she's just like, yeah, I let you like grope me, like what's whatever, like, and he's like freaked out about it still because he has been like raised by the Starks basically, and like his father was telling him like you need to figure out if you're actually one of them or one of us, and that was a big point of this scene. So let's talk about that and how Theon sort of blew up at him about it.
He is. Oh, they are discussing the battle plan. And what's their dad's name?
Balon.
Balon. He is describing to each of them each of their roles in what is about to happen. So they have this map, and he notes that because Robb has vacated the north, essentially, that gives his army the space and the opportunity to take that land.
Yeah.
And he mentions that all of these strongholds that are up there, once they take each one of them, they will provide a barrier as they move further north. He also notes that Winterfell will be the most difficult of these lands to take, but he's not too worried because he'll have all the others surrounding.
He'll have them. Yeah.
Now, to begin this offensive, he says, Yara, you're going to take 30 ships and go where?
To Deepwood Mott, I think, and we haven't been there yet.
So she's going to take her armada and go to this specific location. And then he says, Theon, you get one ship to go fight these fishermen somewhere. And Theon is like, wait a minute. I can fight. I'm a warrior. Why are you giving me one ship? She gets 30. I've been in battle too. I fought by Robb's. He keeps saying that, and it keeps making his dad angry every time he says it. He says, I fought by Robb's side. I'm a warrior. I've seen battle. I can handle this.
Yeah.
You don't have to send me with one ship to fight these fishermen. And Balon, he just continues to be upset that he keeps bringing up the Starks.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. You are part of this family, right? You want to continue in helping to regain our power, yet you want to bend the knee to the Starks. You want to be emboldened to the Starks. You want to be slaves to the Starks. You want to be subjects of the Starks. That's not what this family's about. We take what is ours.
Yeah.
And Yara even throws a few jabs at Theon She calls his boat something.
I think it was the sea bitch.
Sea bitch. Yeah. Like it fits you perfectly. And he mentions Theon does the fishermen again. And Yara says, "Be careful of their nets."
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Like,
and the way she said it too, she was like, "They're gonna get you."
She was really giving it to him, and I loved it.
No, that's I think of the brother sister or the sibling dynamics in the show. Theirs is one of the best ones because like even though there was that kind of incestuous thing that happened, it wasn't real. Like that wasn't like what it wasn't like what Cersei and Jaime do. It was just like Yara being a douchebag, and it was funny. But like you can't get behind the Cersei and Jaime thing because they're taking it so seriously, and it's just like, whoa, guys, like let's not. But yeah, so I don't know, and also like I feel like Yara and Theon have something similar to what like Cersei and Tyrion have, except without the deep hatred.
Yeah.
Like Yara doesn't seem to hate Theon. She just like doesn't really respect him and like doesn't know anything about him really. But they're still that like older sister messing with the younger brother sort of thing. But with Cersei, it's like I actually hate you and want you to die.
Yeah.
And like that's like a little bit hard to watch. But with Theon and Yara, it's funny.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. It's just great to see Yara just giving him the business. I love it.
It is good. It is good. Okay. So now we're gonna go to. Let's go to the Riverlands. So this is actually the end of the episode, but we have to talk about King's Landing still too. But in the Riverlands we see Arya, and we catch up with her a little bit, and basically they kind of jump right into it. Like she's talking to that Night's Watchman that saved her, and she's talking about how she's still replaying that scene of her dad dying in her head. And the guy's like, "No, I made sure you didn't see that." She's like, "Nah, I saw it. Or at least I saw enough of the scene to like put the rest of it together." And he's just like, "Okay, yeah, well, my bad. I'm sorry. I was trying." But she starts talking about how like she sees all of them standing there. She sees like the whole crowd and everything. And then he starts to tell her like how his experiences are with the people that he's killed, and how he's like was so angry with people at one point in his life that he just replayed their names over in his head like before he went to sleep. So like let's just talk about that and like where you think that that's leading Arya's character.
So she is Shining Needle.
Yeah.
And she asks this she says to him, I can't sleep. I have these bad things in my head. And she asks him, you have these bad things in your head. How do you sleep? And he says to her, he begins to say, yes, there are a lot of bad things, but I've also seen some good things, just not as many. And he said, you have to learn to get past these bad things and sleep with or learn to live with yourself and the things that you've done and things that you've seen, and that sleep will come to you. But then that is interrupted by these noises outside the tent, and they are horses and men just storming the place. And it turns out that Tyrion sent these guards back to find Gendry.
Yeah.
And we see them all rushing out. He says, the Night Watchman says to Gendry and Arya, run away. Don't get caught. Don't be seen. Just go. And as they are exiting, we see this little kid notice Gendry's bull helmet. And he picks it up. And then we cut to the Night's Watchman talking to one of the soldiers of this guard that has come for Gendry. And they say to him, we're looking for Gendry. Where is he? Tell us now. And the Night's Watchman says, I'm not going to tell you. You guys can just leave. So they shoot him with a bow and arrow. And he fights off 6 or 7 of these guys before.
Pretty impressive, actually. Especially considering he was a Night's Watchman, because it's like the Night's Watchman seems to be divided among people who are like really experienced and seasoned and people who just like were rejects and stuff. So it's just really interesting to see like which one of those you're gonna get.
So they essentially kill him, or eventually kill him, and they start rounding up all of the survivors. And before Arya is caught, she hands an axe to these 3 hostages who are in this cage, and then she runs off. But all of the other kids basically are lined up, and the soldier once again asks, "Where's Gendry?" And right before that, actually, we see that blonde kid who had the bull's helmet. He has an arrow shot in his leg, and he motions over to one of these soldiers. He says, "Hey, I can't walk. You're gonna have to carry me." So the soldier stabs him in the throat with a needle. And says, "No, I'm not carrying you. Well, you can't walk. What good are you?" Well, his death actually served a purpose for the story. Arya answers the question, "Where is Gendry?" by saying, "You just killed him."
Yeah.
And then the episode ends. So when I saw that kid pick up that helmet, I thought he was going to snitch on Gendry.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like, because before we were told that if anyone has any information, you will be rewarded.
Yeah,
so
and he would have like the helmet to prove it. Yeah.
But
okay.
the helmet proves
that he was
Gendry,
which is awesome, actually. So I actually really liked that, and that shows like a lot about who Arya is too, about how she's willing to protect her friends and that she's going to come up with a way to do it if she can.
I also thought when she began to speak, and she said, "You wanted Gendry, you got him." I thought she was referring to herself at first.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to make that sacrifice, but I think this was an obviously better decision to say that it
for
was
sure.
that dead boy.
And that was because it's interesting the way that you say it, because I'm not sure if I thought that. I don't think I did when I first saw it, but like I think I've heard someone else make that point too, that she could have been saying that. But no, it's super interesting that she was smart enough to be able to be like, "Oh, I see like that helmet right there. Like this is the perfect opportunity to say that," and they'll actually believe it. Because like if he didn't have the helmet, they would have been like, "That's suspect." But they had already been told like he carries that helmet around and everything. So I thought that was really cool. So do you think that that's gonna like deepen the trust between Gendry and Arya?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because do you like them as friends or whatever?
Yeah.
Like okay.
Because separately, they're good people.
Yeah.
So for them to come together and also have a similar thing that they are fighting against, being captured by someone who literally wants them dead.
Yeah. Same people, actually.
It creates an even tougher bond between them. So
no, that makes sense. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, so I think I've said this before, but like Arya's story wasn't one of the stories that I like paid attention to at first. So it is interesting to see her and Gendry, just because they are like the thing about this show that is so great, and this goes back to what we talked about earlier about deception and how you can't trust 90% of what people are saying. Like, when you see genuine bonds in this show, it makes them that much more meaningful because everything else is so much nonsense. And so when I see people like Arya and Gendry, I'm like, yes, like I can finally watch two people who are like getting along and like who like need each other and are leaning on each other and stuff. And I just love that. And like, it's interesting because the show actually gives you that to begin with the Starks. Like, they give you this family that is just like a genuinely just like, or for the time period, like a genuinely like good family. We do see Ned chop someone's head off pretty much immediately, but that was the law, you know. But so it's interesting that they give you that, they immediately destroy it, but then they kind of sprinkle it in other areas like throughout the rest of the show, which I think is kind of cool. Themes. But yeah, so now let's talk about King's Landing, because actually like a lot of really interesting stuff happened in King's Landing too. But we're gonna start off with Tyrion talking to Shay. That's his whore. about basically he's trying to come up with an excuse for her to be there,
Right.
pretty much. And his idea is to put her in the kitchens, and she doesn't want to do that. So basically, like, we don't see anything from that again until later. We see her talking. Actually, I went too far ahead. I want to talk about that dinner scene with Sansa and Cersei, and then that will lead into the stuff with Shay. So with Sansa, we see her in yet again in a precarious situation, and I want to actually resurface the question of like who has it worse again, because now that we're actually seeing where Arya's and Sansa's paths are leading, I want to know like what you actually think about the two situations that they're in, because like to me it's interesting to see Sansa in a worse situation because she is literally the hostage of the enemy, but at the same time she's kept in comfort. She's like, just living a normal life, except it's horrible.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, I kind of want to like compare those two situations again and talk about that dinner scene and just like unnecessarily cold Cersei was being, and just like how she was just jabbing at her for literally no reason.
So the show, I guess, heard me say that this is Sansa's fault that she's in this situation and wants to prove to me, no, you're a terrible person. She is in a lot of trouble.
Right.
Okay, show, I get it.
No, I'm glad you understand that now. Because when you first said that, I was like, really? Seriously?
However, there's still a piece of me. Like, Sansa, there's 10% of this that is your fault.
Okay, yes, I will give that 10% to her, but the 90% of it goes straight to the Lannisters.
She's not in a good place right now, and she doesn't know this, but her life to her is in the balance.
Yeah.
Any wrong move, wrong word could get her killed.
Oh, you think she doesn't know that?
I don't think she knows that isn't true.
Oh, I see.
They can't kill her.
Oh, yeah, she doesn't. Yeah. She definitely thinks that she could get her throat slit at any point.
Right.
She doesn't understand. She doesn't understand that she is a bargaining chip right now. Yeah.
So she is terrified.
Yeah.
And throughout that entire scene, she has tears in her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, she just watched her dad get murdered. She knows that they're gunning for Robb and for Catelyn. She doesn't know where Arya is. Mm-hmm. She's alone, basically, in this house full of wasps.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
They're nuts. So, the two other Lannister children are having a discussion about Arya's wedding.
Mm.
And they're talking about the dresses. And Sansa just sits there silently because if she opens her mouth, she's going to start bawling.
Yeah.
And Cersei says, "Excuse me, Sansa, this princess... Marcella.
Yeah.
Just spoke to you." And that's supposed to elicit a response, and Sansa gives one. And the boy, he asks Cersei if Joffrey was going to kill Robb.
Yeah.
And Cersei's like, "Would you like that?"
What? How on earth is that the response to that question? Like, at first, I thought she said it to Sansa.
I did too.
And I was like, okay, first of all, that's rude. But then when I realized what she actually did, I was like, that's the exact same thing. That's the exact same amount of terrible.
Right.
Like,
but it is interesting that the boy answered no.
Yeah. And, like, he answers it in, like, a no, and I don't know why you would even say that. Like
no, I don't. I was just curious. That's all. But here's what's funny. As Cersei is observing Sansa during this conversation, there's a split second where Cersei displays this look of, I don't know if I'm going to call it concern or compassion, but she looks as if she empathizes with Sansa's situation right now. And I think that actually is explored later when she's talking to Tyrion. But then it turns right back off.
Yeah.
And
That's the thing. It's like you can see this like decency in her, but like her just innate awfulness just like covers it up.
Like you tell that the good is trying to fight for control, but the evil's like, no, stop it.
The evil's like, we love being evil.
So the evil says it doesn't matter whether or not Rob dies because Sansa is going to do what she's supposed to do and love Joffrey and be a great queen.
Yeah.
And then she's like, isn't that right, Sansa? And Sansa doesn't answer because she is terrified. I'm laughing, not because it's funny, her situation.
Yeah.
But the entire situation of Cersei just being the cruelest she could ever be.
But I mean, it's interesting because if you watch that scene like totally out of context, it's just some people having dinner, and you're like, why is this so like deeply uncomfortable?
Yeah. Right.
But then like,
and then you add on how actually uncomfortable it is.
Because that's the thing. It looks like it's just awkward, but then you realize it's actually like absolutely terrible. Like.
I don't envy Sansa.
Right? Okay, I'm glad because like I just like people just literally looked at Sansa's situation and they couldn't do what you just did. They couldn't give her that they couldn't give her that 10%, you know. They had to give her the full 100 for some reason. Oh, and I didn't get it. The entirety of watching the show, I was like, Sansa literally like did not ask for most of this. Right. You know? And like yes, I think it's frustrating because everybody has that little part of them who wanted the fairy tale. And so I think everyone hates Sansa because they hate that part of themselves. Gotcha. And I didn't mean to get that philosophical with it, but like, I don't know. I just think I just have always found people's deep hatred of Sansa to be unwarranted, and I have to explain it some way.
It may have to do with the show subverting that fairy tale.
Yeah.
Like,
and the fact that her character is not yet.
And so here's how I saw it anyway. She was the embodiment of that fairy tale.
Yeah.
She was going full steam ahead with, and for all intents and purposes, it was going to work out for her.
Yeah.
And then when it didn't so terribly, they were like, wait a minute, why did you do this show? But I'm going to direct all of that hatred, quote unquote, toward this character because she isn't fulfilling what I thought she was going to fulfill.
I see.
And that's just me talking.
So let's go back in time and like let's talk about a potential path for Sansa, like from not necessarily the very first episode, but like when she was still innocent. Like, what did you think her story arc was gonna look like? I mean, obviously this show is way different than you ever thought it was gonna be, but
I don't know because at that time, before all of this began to happen, we were just being introduced to the Starks and to that family in general. And there really wasn't any talk about any of their future. Yeah. It was only that they had a vision for themselves. So, you know, as far as what the traditions and customs of the family would be, like, she had this plan because somebody told it to her, because she'd seen it before, because she knows of other women who have gone in this same path. So maybe at that time, I might have been thinking, at some point, they're going to match her up with somebody, and she's going to go off and do what she is talking about.
Gotcha.
Because she has...
So you thought she was going to be more of like a player, kind of like Marjorie is.
Yes, but not necessarily... I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound bad, but not as intelligent.
Oh, yeah, her, no, that's not... yeah.
Just in
but
that
like,
role.
In that role, exactly, yeah. But you didn't expect her to just be like a hostage.
Oh, no. No. I mean, and it started with Ned dying.
Yeah.
Like, that just is a catalyst for all of the things I did not expect to happen afterwards. So.
Do you even feel like you're watching the same show?
No.
Like,
no. Here's what I remember so fondly. Winterfell. It was so nice and peaceful. It was just a happy family. You got Ned, Catelyn, Bran, my buddy.
Them all at dinner, and they were like, Arya like threw some of the food at Sansa's face.
It was so playful and innocent. Can we go back to those days? I know that we can't. Thank you for that. I will never get that back.
Do you see this show going back to anything like that? Like, but to be fair though, we do see that still. Like the Lannisters still have that. Yeah. Like so.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's just now we're seeing every other family's representation
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the same as when we were in Winterfell, but each family's characteristics are being shown
Yeah.
how they interact
Yeah.
with each other. Yeah.
No, that's, and also like another thing about the families that's interesting is like not only are they all just different because people are different, but like their words are all different, and those what those words mean to them are different, and how they act because of that is
Right.
different. And so it's like it's just really interesting to see. But like I think I liked this scene so much because it showed us what we saw. It showed us like the reverse of what we saw with the Starks, because when we saw them all in Winterfell, we saw Cersei there like deeply uncomfortable and having these
right.
motives that you didn't understand what they were, and like trying to find out this stuff about Sansa and all of that stuff. But now we're seeing Sansa in that same position, but with Cersei having the power. And it's not like she didn't have power then, she was the queen, but like now she's got like it's her home,
Right.
like it's her children there, and you're seeing like her as a mother. But like even her as a mother is so evil and terrible, and it's like, why are even in front of your children that you love so much you're like this? Like
That's the example she wants to set for her children, to be that way, because the same reason she's having these children with Jamie is they all need to have this level of Lannister-ness. I don't know. There are other adjectives that I could give.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. That's the most apt way to describe it.
So she wants her children to make sure that they all live by the Lannister way.
Now, you didn't see much from Tommen and Marcella, the two children.
What's it, Tommen?
Tommen and Marcella. Yeah. You didn't see much from them, but like, did you like them noting how Tommen was different than Joffrey? I mean, they didn't really go much into it, but like they showed that clear lack of the cruelty that Joffrey has.
Yes, and then, well, here's because really both of them were different.
Yeah,
and it begs the question why.
Mm-hmm.
Where have they been living that Cersei hasn't rubbed off on it?
Yeah.
Because I see Joffrey's awfulness, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
So for her to have these other two sweet and innocent children, as far as I can tell, who are they being raised by?
Ah, I see.
So,
and I mean, I wonder if it's. I mean, I don't think it could have solely been Joffrey's age, but I think a factor of it was the fact that he was the crown prince, and so Robert may have treated him differently. I still think though that like that level of cruelty that he exhibits isn't something that like you were just saying, isn't something he could have gotten by being raised by the same people in the same situation. Like there had to have been something drastically different about him, or he just is just like that. Like he was just born like that. Like the incest did it, maybe.
But the other two were a result.
Well,
of
yeah,
that too.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it is interesting. I just wanted to point that out because I like seeing the two of them, Tommen and Marcella, and I like seeing them next to Cersei just because I like that difference. But yeah, and also I like seeing her try to like put these evil thoughts into them, and them being like, I don't understand. Like
you said it with their age. It could be that it just doesn't register to them.
Yeah.
And it's probably they're hearing all of these things and they're seeing how Cersei is reacting, but they aren't applying it to their lives because that's not how their brains are working yet.
Yeah.
So maybe in a few years it'll all come together. Like, oh, that's why mom said things like that.
Yeah.
That's why mom acted like that. But right now they're preoccupied with being in a wedding and whatever food he was eating at the time. So
yeah, and that's another thing that's interesting is like for them it may as well still be peacetime. Like they can't really tell that their family's at war. And that's another thing. Cersei was like, she was very casual about the war. She was just like, yeah, this war is happening.
I think the children understand what war is, and that their families have to go to war, but the actual consequences of war they probably don't understand.
Okay, yeah, anyways though, so after that very uncomfortable dinner, we see Sansa meet her new handmaiden, which is Shay. So clearly she has convinced Tyrion not to put her in the kitchens, which I don't know. I thought that was interesting because like they ended with that conversation of her not wanting to do that. But I thought it was interesting the reveal of what the actual plan ended up being. I guess. But you were annoyed with that scene. Like you didn't really understand why. So did you not understand why she was Sansa's handmaiden, or just why her character exists in general?
Not why her character exists, but why her character had to go with Tyrion.
Oh, okay.
If the only reason that the show has presented me with personally is to generate conflict, like what's the point? Like she could easily have just been left back where she was, and none of this would matter. So
no, I feel you.
Unless, and people may disagree, unless they pay off that decision in a better way than they did Miri Mazdur, then I may be on board with it.
Gotcha.
So if she plays a better role, a deeper role, a more meaningful role for me with Sansa, then maybe.
So you think maybe like this could end up being how Bran and the Wildling are right now.
So if in an episode or two Shay gets figured out, Cersei murders her, then I'm going to be upset that she existed.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. But I did want to talk about, because we were talking about Sansa, and this adds more to her character. I want to talk about Sansa's reaction to Shay. Mm-hmm. Because like we see Sansa go from this very defensive, like terrified, scared position to being a lady again, and we remember that Sansa does have this status in this world, even though she's a hostage right now, because she's telling her, she's like, I'm the lady here and you're like whatever you are, so I don't understand why you don't know how to do your job and like are speaking to me at all. And so like I want to talk about like that attitude that Sansa has. Do you think did it bother you that she was taking that tone with her, like she was having this like superiority complex, or is it just like, do you think she was acting out of like frustration and desperation?
I think that at that moment she was able to exert some kind of power that she doesn't have anywhere else. And it all came to a head because she's feeling so alone, so afraid. She is helpless at this point. But there is some kind of control that she can have in the right situations around other people who are lower than her. But at this moment with Cersei and her family, she's the one who has to look up to that family. So
I understand like exactly what you're saying, but do you think it's justified of her to be taking this out on other people?
I mean, I don't know if she were back at Winterfell and
if she was treating people like that, if you would see it the same way. Oh, okay.
And I don't know if I'd be bothered by it. Because again, it's still, this person doesn't know how to do their job. It doesn't matter what.
But do you really see any of the Starks acting like that though? Like I don't know if we've ever seen that display of like superiority from any of the Starks before.
None of the other people they've interacted with have made them need to.
Well, I mean, but like sometimes like people will. Like, actually, all of them have done it. Like, so Robb, when that Umber guy wasn't listening to him, and he was like, he asserted his dominance over him, but like, it wasn't, and he kind of got him to like, his wolf like bit his finger off or whatever. And then Bran, when that guy was like kind of talking bad about Robb, Bran steps up and he's just like, no, you can't be talking like this, basically. Like, Robb is the king now. Like, this is how things are. But I don't think any of them did it in the same kind of condescending way that Sansa was doing it.
I guess I don't see it as that condescending.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And also, she again,
but she's under duress.
Emotions.
Yeah. No, I guess I think I wanted to kind of dive into a lot of the things that people don't like about Sansa. A lot of people think that she just acts more like entitled and just like she acts more Lannister-y than the rest of the Starks do, I guess.
Here's the thing. I don't know if let me try to separate Lannister behavior from royal behavior and Sansa's behavior. Sansa wants to be royalty. She doesn't want to be a Lannister. She doesn't want to be cruel and cold and
Yeah,
calculating.
Oh,
She just
okay.
wants to be a part of this family that bears heirs and rules a kingdom.
Yeah.
That's what she wants to be a part of. And I think that's separate than who the Lannisters are.
I think that actually makes a lot of sense because I think a lot of people equate, and I mean, I might be oversimplifying it, but like, I think a lot of people attribute that sort of like royal behavior to the Lannisters,
And I can see why.
not as much to the Starks because the Starks are royalty, but they don't behave in that
They don't
same
dress
way.
that way. They don't have the fancy
Yeah,
crowns.
yeah.
They don't have all the gold and things like that.
Because I mean, even like to even further separate it from the Lannisters, when we went and saw Renly and how he was living, and Robert, who was also not a Lannister, but like the Baratheons, for example, are very flashy, showy people. Like Renly was having this whole fight, and like he had a crown on. I don't know if you could see it. Marjorie looked like a warrior princess. Like, so I mean, it makes sense why people would separate the Starks from that sort of royal attitude, even though they probably do still have it. Okay, that makes sense. All right, well, that was a whopper. Is there anything that you think we missed?
Oh, Tyrion.
Oh, yeah, we missed all of Tyrion. Yeah, of course. Okay, so yeah, Tyrion is brokering this deal right now. And then that also leads into the conversation he has with Cersei. But Tyrion is trying to make this deal right now. And I want to talk about how you felt about the transitions and how they made that scene play out. And how you also felt about... so I want to talk about the execution, like as far as the showrunners go, and what the character was doing as far as what his plan was.
So I thought it was really good the way that he begins this conversation with one of the maesters, and he says that there's this plan to unite these kingdoms, and sometimes these plans include matrimony. Now, I'm going to set into motion some of these things, but you can't tell Cersei. The queen must not know. And he goes on to describe how he's going to marry off Marcella to one of these other princes. And throughout the story, he gets maybe halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, and as a new detail emerges about his plan, the scene changes to him talking to someone else. And this happens 3 times. He talks to the Maester, he talks to Varys, and he talks to Littlefinger. And I really like the transition, and I've seen that in other shows, in other movies, and it works every time I see it.
Yeah.
But he tells each one of them a different scenario. But one thing that is the same throughout each conversation is the queen must not know.
Yeah.
And as it registers to me that he's telling them different things, and I also heard correctly that he is marrying off the same person to these 3 people.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, there's some deception here.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening. But we learned that one of these characters did tell Cersei. And it was an attempt by Tyrion to continue cleaning house. In a previous episode, he exiles one of the heads of the King's Guard because they betrayed the last hand of the king. And he can't have that. He can't have people stabbing him in the back. So he's trying to get rid of anybody who isn't loyal to him in a very tangible, evidential way. So it turns out that it's the Maester who told Cersei. So he has him basically thrown in jail. Cuts off his beard. Thought that was hilarious. Now, he also is found out. Well, he's confronted by Littlefinger, because Littlefinger was like, "Whoa, why did you tell me to do this when you didn't plan on that actually being the case? Next time, leave me out of your deception." And Tyrion offers that he can actually be a part of his new deception, his new plan that he's got going on.
Well, I love the way that he worded that too. His new deception or his next deception
that involved Catelyn.
Yeah,
and Littlefinger looked intrigued.
Which is so I like Littlefinger. I mean, well, I have mixed emotions about Littlefinger, but like, I was frustrated that he fell for that bait so easily. I guess.
Which one? The first one? Or
the second one?
Okay.
Because like. Peter, or not Peter. I said Peter because that's Peter Dinklage's name.
Peter Baelish is his name, though.
No, but I was talking about Tyrion.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so Tyrion is so Tyrion had like just deceived him, like he had just played him, and so for him to just immediately fall for it again because if Catelyn was brought up, kind of frustrated me. But who knows? Maybe this one actually isn't like going to be screwing him over.
I don't know necessarily that it upsets me because. From what I can tell, he is deeply invested in Catelyn.
Yeah, for some weird reason.
Yeah, that's his weakness.
Yeah.
And if he can get close to her, he's going to.
Yeah.
Or if there's a chance, he's going to take it.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I just like, I still think that like it was short-sighted of him, even knowing, like to not know that that's his weakness.
Fair enough.
Even, because I mean, like, it's not like Tyrion played him and then like, 2 weeks later he fell for that. It was like he found out that he played him and then immediately let himself get played again. So I just thought for someone who has been so good at maneuvering and everything, it just seemed odd that it was that easy.
Because with the first deception, he had a lot of questions.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
But I don't know. I just thought that was kind of weird. But yeah, no, I really thought that spoke to Tyrion's character a lot. Just like this entire scene and what he was doing, and like you said, how he was trying to test the waters and see who was loyal to him and who was not. And I think, like I was telling you, it made sense to me that it wasn't Peter or Varys, because Peter and Varys know that there are going to be consequences to... I mean, it's not that they're afraid of Tyrion, because they have their own stuff going on. But I think they also understand that, like, there wouldn't have been any necessarily, like... There wouldn't have been any advantage in telling anybody about that, and they understood that, whereas Pycelle doesn't.
And as you were saying, they've got other things going on that's more important than Cersei knowing this.
Exactly. Like, this thing that they were doing with Tyrion was just some side thing that they happened to be talking to him about. But, like, Pycelle was probably just like, oh, I'm so loyal to Cersei, I have to go tell her this immediately. So, I mean, I just really liked the way that scene shook out. I didn't necessarily like the girl being used as a bargaining chip, but, I mean, that's just what happens in this world.
What girl?
Marcella. Yeah. We haven't really... She hasn't really said much or anything, but like I keep trying to I don't know. Anyways, like I don't know, but overall I liked that we got introduced to a lot of new stuff in this episode. Like the pieces are really moving.
Cersei and Tyrion.
Oh yeah.
Cersei confronts Tyrion about his plan.
Yeah.
And her reaction was, it was really funny. Because she described Sansa. She said, you can't marry off my daughter because she's going to be like Sansa.
Yeah.
And I was
that is exactly what she did. That's so funny.
No, you don't get to say that. Okay, fine. And then she also says, you can't marry off Marcella because she's going to be like me. She was also sold off to the Baratheons.
Yeah.
So, no, Cersei, you don't get to be upset. No. And that's what I was referring to earlier when I saw that split second of compassion. And
No, that does make a lot of sense. So, okay, I think from the perspective of I was sold to Robert, I don't want that to happen to Marcella, I can understand that. That's a fair reaction. But the fact that she's literally doing that to a human being right now makes it just not okay. Like, at all. Like, she literally just had this smirky dinner where she, like, berated this child whose family is, like, in disarray because of her. Like, literally all of this started... Oh, and this, like, recalls something else about how, like, Tyrion has kind of been treated by Tywin as like the cause of their problems right now. No, it was Cersei and Jaime. Cersei and Jaime started literally everything on this show. So I'm just like, Cersei, chill. Like, you were literally keeping a hostage, and like you're afraid of the fact that your daughter is about to go and experience the same stuff that you are doing to another person right now. So I just thought that was so frustrating. And so I'm glad that you said that, because I don't know if I this time around really like felt the anger that I needed to feel. But yeah, Cersei, like, you're tripping like so hard right now.
Fine. That's her daughter.
Yeah.
Okay. But Sansa is someone's daughter too.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Not only is Sansa someone's daughter, but she's the daughter of someone that your son killed, and like you and your brother like threw her brother out of a window. Like you need to chill.
Some things and some stuff. And I wouldn't recommend
I
it.
bet you'd recommend all of it though, because you're crazy. But yeah, and also another thing, like, to even further drive it home, she mentioned the Martells hate us.
Yeah.
So she says like to even further say like it's literally going to be the exact same situation that Sansa's in, or at least in her head, that's what she believes. But yeah, no, I love that scene a lot, and I love just the fact that like, I mean, it's just it further drives home like the differences between two families, and like the Starks would never do these things to each other. Like,
I'm not worried at all that would happen. No.
And that's what's so weird about it. It's like, how far back does it go with the Lannisters? Like, when did all of this awful start? Like,
they're just angry at everybody all the time. But only if you talk back to them. Just serve them and you'll be good.
Seriously though, serve them and agree that all of the awful things that they're doing are great. Yeah. Like, seriously. Oh, they're trying to kill your brother. You better have a big smile on your face about it.
Yeah.
Like,
they're gonna decapitate your father in front of you.
You're
okay with
20 minutes to cry. Wait, no, actually, why are you crying? Because he was a traitor.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That
is the response. Okay, wow. Thank you guys for joining us along for this ride. This was a long one. Thanks for sticking through to the end. We will see you guys next time for episode 4, and have a good one. Got a little awkward at the end, but that's okay. Come in.